Okay, now let us start with the most important concept, Agile Manifesto and Agile Principles. Agile Manifesto, if you can recall, in 2001, 17 developers met in Switzerland and they developed some Agile Manifesto. It's typically the constitution of a country, very similar to that. It's a constitution related to Agile, like your focus should be on this as per the Agile Manifesto, and these are the principles you need to follow. It's all about Agile Manifesto and principles. Subsequently, we'll learn about the principles, and it's very important for the examination as well. So if you see here, you have certain options on A and certain options on B. What Agile says is, your focus should be more on the aspects of A over B. So in Agile environment, your focus should be more on these entities rather than these entities. It doesn't mean that you don't look into this. Yes, you have to look into this. Nevertheless, your focus will be more on options that are there in A. So as I keep on saying earlier, Agile is all of human interactions. So it says the first option in A says individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Your focus should be more on individuals and interactions. So as a team, you should collaborate and should work together. As with the customer, you should collaborate and work together. With the stakeholders, you have to interact, you have to collaborate and work together. So your focus should be more on individuals and interactions rather than laying the process and tools. It doesn't mean that you don't need tools and processes, but the Agile mindset says that your focus should be more on this, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. And your focus should be on working software over comprehensive documentation. As I told you, in traditional project management, we focus more on documentation. During planning stage, you develop tons and tons of documentation. Whereas in Agile, they're not saying no to documentation. Do the documentation if you feel that it adds value. If someone asks, your customer asks, hey, I need this document, as if the situation asks for. Don't develop the documentation for the heck of it as a legacy. No, my project manager did it, and his predecessor did it, and my great grandfather did it. Don't do the documentation just for the heck of it. So your focus would be more on executing rather than planning. So when do you get a working software? When your focus is more on execution rather than planning. The output of planning is the documentation. So still you need documentation, but try to keep it as minimum as possible. And you focus more on the working software, you focus on the execution. And the third manifesto says customer collaboration or contract negotiation. Work with the customer, understand his requirements, understand his changing requirements, and welcome those changing requirements as well. It's not that customer asks for something new feature, immediately you open the contract and you start negotiation. This is not we have agreed in the scope in the first place. Now I will raise a change request. I'm going to penalize you, right? So Agile says work with heart more than the brain, right? When you work with heart, you have that empathy. You understand why the customer is asking for a change. See, customer is not mad to ask a change at a given point in time, even at the back end of the project. He has some business value. That is the reason he's asking for that particular change, right? So he also knows what will be the impact if the changes are made at the last leg of the project or the back end of the project. He also knows the implications, but still it's a trade-off. Sometimes the business value required is more than the technical constraints what you are facing. So always work for the customer rather than contract negotiation. Respond to change over following a plan. Hey, this is what we thought initially. This is what we thought it would be our priority. Now, why do you want to change? No, you welcome the change, respond to the change. It's not that what you have planned in the first place, I'm going to stick to that. Subsequently, I'm not going to change it. It doesn't work that way, because software development is very dynamic. Or the requirements in the software related to the customer or business, they're very dynamic. So obviously, if you have to cater those requirements, you have to be agile towards the changes. So responding to the change over following a plan, right? So it's not that whatever you have feased in the first place, we are going to stick to that. right? So any Agile methodology should align with Agile Manifesto. As you know, there are multiple frameworks. You have Scrum, you have DSD method, right? We have extreme programming. Initially, we discussed about a few frameworks briefly. So any Agile framework will follow the manifesto. On the previous classes also, I told you that though there are slight variations in these frameworks with in terms of role, in terms of duration, but end of the day, every methodology will follow this manifesto and principles. And now comes Agile principles. There are 12 Agile principles. There is nothing new that you'll be learning now what we have not discussed earlier. We discussed all these things, all these principles in one concept or the other. So now, what are the 12 Agile principles, and any Agile methodology should align with these principles? I need your attention. As I told you, in the examination perspective, this manifesto and principles, they take a lot of weightage. Our highest priority, the first principle, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer. Of course, end of the day, we need to satisfy the customer. But how are you going to satisfy the customer is the most important. So the Agile mindset says our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. In traditional project management, the customer will see or can use the software only at the end of the development. Once all the phases are done, maybe after 1 year, if the project stint is 1 year, after 6 months, if the project stint is 6 months, right? So whereas here, we give the working software as early as possible. By the end of first iteration itself, the customer can see some working software. Second iteration, yes, it will be incremented. Probably by third iteration, which is the end of the release 1, maybe he can also go live and he can start using the software early than compared to the traditional project management. So you are making the customer satisfied through early and continuous delivery. Every iteration you give some valuable software, some working software, right? So that the customer can start using it. Probably at the end of each release, you give the MMF, minimum marketable features, the minimum features that are required that to start using the application, or minimum viable product. I told you, it's also called as minimum viable product, the minimum product that is required for you in order to start using it. So you're making the customer happy by providing early and continuous delivery of valuable software. In the traditional project management case, the customer has to wait 1 year if the project stint is 1 year in order to start using the software. But whereas here with the MMFs, he can start his business early, and thereby you're making the customer happy, right? This already we have discussed this. Then the second principle says, welcome changing requirements even late in the development. We discussed about this. Even in the middle of the development or even at the fag end of the development, if the customer asks for some changes or if he comes with the new requirements, we welcome with both the hands, right? Why? Because Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. As I told you, customer is not mad. He knows the implications if all the changes are made at the fag end, but still he had some competitive advantage. And we also believe that the change what the customer is asking is for his business advantage, right? So welcome changing requirements even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage, right? So the third principle says deliver working software frequently. We know that every iteration we deliver the software, working software. I told you at the end of the iteration, the software should be working condition. It's not that you deliver something, it's not in working, the customer can't use it, the customer can't test it. No, you have to plan in such a way that at the end of iteration, you should be in a position to deliver that working software. For example, if you are developing a search bar in an e-commerce site, that entire search bar should be in working condition. It's not that I have designed this search bar in this iteration, in the next iteration, I will give the functionality to it. No, it should be in a working condition. If required, you stretch the period of this iteration. Instead of making it 2 weeks, make it 4 weeks. But in 4 weeks, you give a search bar which is in working condition. And how frequent you deliver? Every iteration. And that iteration should range from a couple of weeks to a couple of months. So either it could be a couple of weeks. The maximum what they are recommending is couple of months. You cannot have an iteration, 1 year iteration, or a 6 months iteration, or a 4 months iteration. Then the entire essence of Agile will be lost. If again you are going for 6 months, 1 year, right? Agile will be lost. And with a preference to the shorter time scale. If you have to choose between couple of weeks and couple of months, go for couple of weeks if there is a chance. Even in this couple of months also, they're saying don't go for couple of months. Only when there is no other go, then go for couple of months, or you try to keep it as short as possible. So between the couple of weeks and couple of months, you have to choose. You prefer which one? Couple of weeks is the one which you prefer. So this is a third principle.